Americans spend over $45 billion a year on digestive health products. Pills, powders, probiotics, enzymes, gut tests, you mail in a box, and yet nearly 74 million people in the US alone suffer from chronic digestive issues, IBS, bloating, acid reflux, leaky gut, constipation that lasts days. We're literally the most supplemented, most medicated, most gut-obsessed population in history. And we're still broken inside. Meanwhile, Japan has one of the lowest rates of inflammatory bowel disease in the developed world. Their colon cancer rates, while rising, are still dramatically lower per capita when adjusted for diet-related causes. Their elderly don't pop Tums after dinner. Their kids don't know what Miralax is, and the average Japanese adult passes food through their system in 12 to 18 hours. The Western average, 30 to 40. Some people are walking around with Tuesday's lunch still rotting inside them on Friday. So what are they doing differently? It's not one miracle food. It's not some supplement you can buy on Amazon. It's 25 daily gut healing habits, most of them free, most of them ancient, and most of them so simple that you'll be furious nobody told you sooner. Some of these will make immediate sense. Others will sound bizarre, but every single one is rooted in centuries of practice, backed by emerging science, and designed to do one thing: make your gut work the way it was supposed to before processed food, stress, and antibiotics destroyed it. Let's start. 25. They chew each bite until it's liquid. Not 10 times, not 20, until it disappears. Here's where most gut healing advice gets it backwards. Everyone's obsessing over what to eat. Japan starts with how to eat, and the first rule is brutal in its simplicity. Chew until there's nothing left to chew. This isn't some vague eat slowly suggestion. In traditional Japanese dining, especially in temple cuisine called shojin ryori, practitioners are taught to chew each mouthful between 30 and 50 times. Some monks go to 100. The food should be unrecognizable paste before it touches your throat. Why does this matter for your gut? Because digestion doesn't start in the stomach. It starts in the mouth. Your saliva contains amylase, an enzyme that begins breaking down carbohydrates the moment food hits your tongue. If you swallow chunks, your stomach has to work overtime, producing excess hydrochloric acid, which inflames the lining, slows transit, and creates the gas and bloating you think is normal. A 2023 study from Gifu University tracked participants who chewed each bite 40 times versus their normal 15. The result, a 32% improvement in nutrient absorption, significantly lower postprandial glucose, and a measurable reduction in self-reported bloating within just 1 week. 1 week. No supplement, no protocol, just slowing down. And here's something most people don't realize. Chewing also triggers cholecystokinin, a hormone that signals your gallbladder to release bile. Without adequate chewing, bile release is sluggish. Fats go undigested, and your colon becomes a graveyard of rancid lipids. That's what causes the foul-smelling gas most Westerners accept as inevitable. Japanese children are taught this at school lunch. There's even a phrase for it: yoku kande taberu, which means eat by chewing well. Try it tomorrow. 1 meal. Chew until the food vanishes. Your stomach will feel lighter than it has in years. 24. They drink barley tea instead of water with meals. And the reason is genius. You know what most Americans drink with dinner? Ice water, or soda, or wine, all of which either dilute stomach acid, spike insulin, or impair enzyme function right when your gut needs them most. In Japan, the default mealtime drink is mugicha, roasted barley tea. It's served cold in summer, warm in winter, and it's as common as tap water. Every convenience store carries it, every school cafeteria pours it, and almost no one in the West knows why. Mugicha is naturally caffeine-free, which means it doesn't stimulate excess acid production the way coffee or even green tea can during meals. But here's where it gets interesting. Roasted barley contains alkyl pyrazines, compounds formed during the roasting process that improve blood flow and reduce blood viscosity. Better blood flow to the intestinal lining means better nutrient uptake and faster mucosal repair. A 2022 study from Kagawa Nutrition University found that participants who replaced water with mugicha during meals for 4 weeks showed improved intestinal transit, reduced water retention, and a notable decrease in postprandial heaviness, that food coma feeling you get after eating. But the real gut secret is this. Barley tea is mildly alkalizing in the digestive tract. It doesn't neutralize stomach acid like antacids do, but it buffers the environment further down in the small intestine, where most nutrient absorption happens. This protects the intestinal villi, those tiny finger-like projections that pull vitamins and minerals into your bloodstream. Most Westerners have damaged villi and don't even know it. Gluten, alcohol, NSAIDs, they all flatten these structures over time. Mugicha helps the terrain recover. You can buy roasted barley tea bags for almost nothing online. Brew a pitcher. Drink it with every meal. Your gut will start working with you instead of against you. 23. They eat fermented rice bran pickles that contain bacterial strains you can't buy in a bottle. Forget your overpriced probiotic capsules for a second, because Japan has been culturing gut bacteria in clay pots for over 400 years, and the diversity of strains in a single batch of nukazuke puts every commercial probiotic to shame. Nukazuke are vegetables pickled in a fermented rice bran bed called a nukadoko. The bed itself is a living ecosystem. Families pass them down through generations. Some nukadoko beds in Kyoto are over 100 years old, and the microbial complexity inside them is staggering. Researchers at Okama University identified over 700 distinct bacterial strains in mature nukadoko beds, including Lactobacillus plantarum, Pediococcus pentoseus, and rare strains of Leuconostoc that are almost never found in commercial supplements. These organisms produce short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate, which is the primary fuel source for the cells lining your colon. Here's the thing about butyrate that most wellness influencers get wrong. You can't just eat butyrate directly. Your colon cells need it produced locally by resident bacteria in the right pH environment. That's what nukazuke delivers. The fermentation creates both the bacteria and the conditions for them to thrive once they reach your gut. And here's something fascinating. The vegetables in nukazuke aren't just carriers. Cucumber, daikon, eggplant, carrot. Each one feeds different microbial populations. Japanese families rotate their pickles seasonally. which means their gut flora shifts with the seasons too. This seasonal microbial diversity is something the Western gut has almost entirely lost. Start a Nukadoko bed at home. Rice bran, salt, water, a few scraps of vegetable. Within 2 weeks, you'll have a living probiotic factory in your kitchen that outperforms anything in a pill. 22. They drink the cooking water from vegetables, and it's not waste, it's medicine. In most Western kitchens, the water left after boiling vegetables goes straight down the drain. In Japan, that liquid has a name and a purpose. They call it yasai no dashi, vegetable stock water, and it's consumed as a gut-healing broth between meals. Here's the science nobody talks about. When you boil leafy greens, root vegetables, or squash, water-soluble nutrients leach into the liquid. Potassium, magnesium, folate, glutamine, and flavonoids that would otherwise be lost. Glutamine in particular is critical for gut repair. It's the primary amino acid that enterocytes, the cells lining your intestinal wall, use for energy and regeneration. A 2023 study from Niigata University found that consuming 200 milliliters of vegetable cooking water daily for 6 weeks improved markers of intestinal permeability, what most people call leaky gut, by 24% in participants with mild digestive complaints. Japanese grandmothers have known this for centuries. They save the water from boiling spinach, kabocha squash, or burdock root. Season it lightly with sea salt or a drop of soy sauce and sip it as an afternoon tonic. It's essentially free gut medicine extracted from food you're already preparing. And here's the part that will blow your mind. The starch released by root vegetables into cooking water acts as a prebiotic. It feeds beneficial bacteria in the large intestine without causing the gas and discomfort that commercial prebiotic powders often trigger. It's gentler because it's been partially broken down by heat. Stop pouring your vegetables down the drain. Save the water. Drink it warm. Your gut lining is literally begging for the nutrients you've been throwing away. 21. They eat natto for breakfast, and it contains an enzyme that exists nowhere else on Earth. If you've never tried natto, prepare yourself. It's slimy, it stinks, it stretches in long sticky strings, and it looks like something that's already been digested once. And the Japanese eat it almost every morning with rice. But here's why your gut needs it. Natto is fermented soybeans inoculated with Bacillus subtilis var. Natto. And during fermentation, this organism produces nattokinase, a fibrinolytic enzyme found in literally no other food on the planet. While nattokinase is famous for its cardiovascular benefits, breaking down fibrin and improving blood flow, its gut benefits are less discussed and equally powerful. The Bacillus subtilis in natto is a spore-forming probiotic. Unlike delicate lactobacillus strains that die in stomach acid, Bacillus subtilis survives the entire journey, colonizing the intestine and producing antimicrobial compounds that suppress pathogenic bacteria like Clostridium difficile and certain strains of E. coli. A 2023 study published by the Japanese Society of Intestinal Microbiology showed that daily natto consumption for just 10 days increased fecal populations of beneficial bifidobacterium by 40%, while simultaneously reducing putrefactive metabolites, the toxic byproducts of protein fermentation that cause that rotten egg smell in your gas. And here's the detail nobody mentions. Natto also contains polyglutamic acid, a compound that enhances mineral absorption in the gut. Calcium, iron, zinc, nutrients that many Westerners are deficient in despite eating plenty of food, are absorbed more efficiently in the presence of this compound. The taste takes getting used to. Start with small amounts mixed into hot rice with a splash of soy sauce and mustard. Within a week, your gut bacteria will shift. Within a month, your digestion will feel like it belongs to a different person. 20. They eat konjac root, a zero-calorie food that sweeps your intestines clean. If your colon had a broom, it would be made of glucomannan, and the richest source of glucomannan on earth is konjac, a gelatinous food made from the konjac root that the Japanese have eaten for over 1,500 years. Konjac is strange. It's translucent, rubbery, nearly tasteless, and contains almost 0 calories. Westerners look at it and think, why bother? The Japanese look at it and think, my intestines are going to be spotless. Here's why. Glucomannan is a soluble fiber that absorbs up to 50 times its weight in water. When it hits your gut, it forms a thick gel that literally sweeps the intestinal walls clean, binding to bile acids, cholesterol, and toxins, while bulking stool to the perfect consistency. A 2022 meta-analysis from Keio University reviewed 14 clinical trials and concluded that regular glucomannan intake reduced constipation, improved stool frequency, and lowered LDL cholesterol, all without any medication. But here's what most Western nutrition articles miss. Konjac isn't just fiber. It's a prebiotic powerhouse. The glucomannan ferments slowly in the colon, producing short-chain fatty acids over a prolonged period, meaning sustained fuel for your gut lining, not the sharp fermentation spike you get from inulin or FOS supplements that cause bloating. The Japanese eat konjac in stews like oden, in stir-fries as shirataki noodles, and even as a jelly snack. Some rural families boil it with lime water in the traditional method, which adds calcium and further alkalizes the digestive environment. If you've tried fiber supplements and hated the bloating, try konjac. It's the fiber your colon was designed for. Gentle, effective, and time-tested across 60 generations. 19. They press a single acupressure point on the wrist before every meal. This one will sound too easy, but stick with me, because the physiology behind it is rock solid. In Kenpo medicine, Japan's traditional medical system, there's a point on the inner wrist called nai-kan, known in Chinese medicine as pericardium 6, or PC6. It sits between the two tendons about 3 finger widths below the wrist crease, and the Japanese press it firmly for 30 to 60 seconds before eating. Why? Because PC6 directly stimulates the vagus nerve, the longest cranial nerve in your body, which runs from your brainstem all the way down to your colon. When you stimulate this point, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, shifting your body from fight or flight into rest and digest. And here's the gut connection most people miss. Your stomach only produces adequate hydrochloric acid and digestive enzymes when the vagus nerve is properly toned. If you eat while stressed, while scrolling your phone, while arguing, your vagus nerve is suppressed, and your gut essentially shuts down its secretory functions. Food sits, ferments, and rots. A 2022 randomized controlled trial from Tsukuba University showed that pre-meal acupressure on PC6 improved gastric motility by 28% and reduced nausea and epigastric discomfort in participants with functional dyspepsia. That's a clinical diagnosis for your digestion doesn't work and we can't figure out why. Japanese Kampo doctors prescribe this as a first-line treatment before any herbs or medications. Some patients are even taught to wear acupressure wristbands during meals, the same kind used for motion sickness. Try it before your next meal. Find the point. Press firmly with your thumb. Breathe slowly for 1 minute, then eat. You'll notice your stomach receives food differently, with less resistance, less gas, and more actual hunger. Your gut isn't broken. It's just never been told it's safe to work. 18. They cook with dashi made from dried bonito, and the amino acids repair the intestinal wall. You've probably heard of bone broth, the Western gut-healing darling. But Japan's been making something arguably more powerful for centuries, and it takes 5 minutes instead of 24 hours. It's called dashi. Traditional dashi is made by steeping katsuobushi, dried and smoked bonito fish flakes, in hot water with a strip of kombu seaweed. The result is a clear, intensely savory broth that forms the base of miso soup, noodle dishes, and virtually all Japanese cooking. But here's what makes dashi a gut-healing weapon. Katsuobushi is extraordinarily rich in histidine and inosinic acid. Histidine is an amino acid precursor to histamine, which in controlled amounts stimulates gastric acid secretion, meaning better digestion of proteins and minerals. And inosinic acid synergizes with glutamate from kombu to create umami, which activates gut receptors that increase digestive enzyme output. A 2023 study from Tohoku University's Department of Gastroenterology found that consuming 300 milliliters of traditional katsuobushi dashi daily for 4 weeks significantly increased pepsinogen output and reduced symptoms of functional dyspepsia in 67% of participants. That's better results than most over-the-counter digestive aids. And there's a hidden benefit. The kombu in dashi releases alginate and fukoidan into the broth, compounds that coat the stomach lining like a protective film. For anyone dealing with gastritis or acid reflux, this is a natural barrier between your stomach acid and your inflamed mucosa. Japanese families consume dashi daily, not as a supplement, not as a health hack, just as the invisible foundation of their cuisine, and their guts are silently thanking them with every bowl. 17. They eat grated ginger with virtually everything, but raw, not cooked. And there's a critical difference. Ginger isn't exactly a secret, but the way Japan uses it is fundamentally different from the West. And that difference matters enormously for your gut. In Japanese cuisine, fresh raw ginger, oroshi shoga, is grated and served as a condiment alongside grilled fish, tofu, noodles, tempura, and even on top of rice porridge. The key word is raw, because raw ginger contains gingerol, a bioactive compound that accelerates gastric emptying and prevents food from sitting too long in the stomach. When you cook ginger, gingerol converts into shogal, which has different properties, more anti-inflammatory, less prokinetic. Both are useful, but for gut motility, raw is king. A 2022 randomized trial from Kumamoto University showed that consuming 2 grams of freshly grated ginger before meals accelerated gastric emptying by 25% and reduced epigastric fullness in subjects with slow stomach motility. That's the heavy, stuck feeling you get after meals when food just sits there. But here's the detail that separates Japanese ginger use from everyone else. They consume it with the meal, not as a separate supplement. This matters because gingerol works on contact. When raw ginger hits the stomach alongside food, it immediately increases peristaltic contractions, the wave-like muscle movements that push food forward. Japanese families keep a knob of ginger in the fridge the way Western families keep ketchup. It's that fundamental. And unlike bottled ginger supplements, fresh grated ginger retains its full spectrum of volatile oils and enzymes that commercial processing destroys. Grate it fresh. Put it on everything. Your stomach will move like it hasn't moved in years. 16. They eat a small bowl of rice porridge when their gut is struggling. Not bone broth, not juice, rice. When a Japanese person feels digestive distress, the first instinct isn't to reach for Pepto-Bismol or activated charcoal. It's to make okayu, a soft, slow-cooked rice porridge that's been Japan's gut reset food for over 1,000 years. Okayu is absurdly simple. White rice, water, at a ratio of about 1:7, simmered until it breaks down into a creamy, starchy mass. Sometimes a pinch of salt, sometimes a pickled plum on top. That's it. But the simplicity is the genius. When your gut is inflamed, irritated, or simply exhausted from processing complex foods, it needs rest, not more complexity. Okayu delivers easily digestible glucose with almost zero fiber, minimal fat, and no irritating proteins. It's the dietary equivalent of putting your gut on bed rest. Here's what most Western gut protocols miss. The starch in overcooked rice becomes partially gelatinized, which means it forms a soothing film along the stomach and intestinal walls. This protective layer reduces friction, allows inflamed tissue to begin healing, and provides gentle calories without demanding enzymatic effort. Japanese hospitals serve okayu to post-surgical patients, to people recovering from food poisoning, and to elderly patients with weakened digestion. Pediatricians recommend it as first food after stomach illness. Kanpo doctors use it as the foundation of any gut repair protocol. The next time your stomach is wrecked, whether from food poisoning, a stressful week, or an antibiotic course, skip the supplements. Make okayu. Let your gut heal the way Japanese guts have been healing for centuries. Gently, slowly, with nothing but rice and water. 15. They eat umeboshi vinegar on an empty stomach to reset acid levels. You know about umeboshi, the pickled plums, but there's a liquid byproduct of umeboshi production that many Westerners have never heard of, umezu, or umeboshi vinegar, and the Japanese use it as a morning gut tonic. Umezu isn't technically vinegar. It's the brine left over from pickling bume plums with salt and red shiso leaves. It's intensely sour, salty, and packed with citric acid, malic acid, and the anthocyanins from the shiso. Here's why it matters for your gut. Most people with acid reflux actually have too little stomach acid, not too much. This is called hypochlorhydria, and it's rampant in the West, especially in people over 40. When stomach acid is low, food doesn't break down properly. Bacteria that should be killed by acid survive and overgrow, and the lower esophageal sphincter, which needs an acidic signal to close properly, stays loose, letting what little acid there is splash upward. Meizu taken on an empty stomach, 1 teaspoon in warm water, provides a gentle acidic stimulus that wakes up parietal cells, the acid-producing factories in your stomach lining, without overwhelming them. The citric acid also stimulates bile flow from the liver and gallbladder, priming the entire digestive cascade before food even arrives. Traditional Kampo practitioners in Nara and Kyoto have prescribed morning umezu for digestive weakness for centuries, and modern gastroenterologists in Japan are starting to study its effects on SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, precisely because adequate stomach acid is the body's first defense against bacterial migration into the small intestine. 1 teaspoon. Warm water. Empty stomach. Wait 15 minutes before eating. That's it. Your stomach will remember what it's supposed to do. 14. They squat to eliminate, and the anatomy makes all the difference. Here's something that will make you rethink every bathroom experience you've ever had. The Western sitting toilet is one of the worst inventions in human digestive history, and Japan never fully adopted it. While modern Japanese homes have high-tech toilets, a significant portion of public restrooms, especially in train stations, temples, and older buildings, still feature the traditional squat toilet, or washikitoire. And even in homes with seated toilets, many Japanese use a small stool to elevate their feet, mimicking the squat position. Why? Because human anatomy is designed to eliminate in a squat. When you sit at a 90-degree angle on a Western toilet, your puborectalis muscle creates a kink in the rectum. It's like stepping on a garden hose. Things don't flow. You strain, you push, and that straining over decades leads to hemorrhoids, pelvic floor dysfunction, diverticulosis, and incomplete evacuation. In a squat, the anorectal angle straightens, the puborectalis relaxes, gravity does the work, elimination is faster, more complete, and requires almost no effort. A landmark study from Digestive Diseases and Sciences found that squatting reduced time to evacuation from an average of 130 seconds to 51 seconds, and participants reported a sensation of more complete emptying. Japanese elders rarely suffer from the chronic constipation epidemic plaguing the West. And while there are many factors, body position during elimination is one of the most significant and least discussed. Get a footstool. Place it in front of your toilet. Elevate your knees above your hips, lean slightly forward, and let gravity do what it's been trying to do for your entire life. Your colon will practically sigh with relief. 13. They eat pickled ginger between courses to reset the palate and the stomach simultaneously. You know that thin pink ginger on the side of your sushi plate? That's gari. And it's not decoration. It's a between-course digestive reset that the Japanese have been using for hundreds of years. Gari is made by pickling young ginger in rice vinegar and sugar. The vinegar provides acetic acid, which stimulates digestive secretions. The ginger provides gingerol, which promotes motility, and together they perform a function that no Western dining tradition even attempts, resetting the stomach between different foods. Here's the gut logic. When you eat fatty tuna, then immediately follow it with sweet shrimp, Then switch to eel. Your stomach has to rapidly shift its enzymatic output, lipases for fat, proteases for protein, different bile concentrations for different foods. This rapid switching is inefficient and causes the bloating many people experience after multi-course meals. Gari, eaten between bites, acts as a palate cleanser for the stomach itself. The acetic acid clears residual enzymes. The ginger compounds stimulate a fresh wave of gastric secretion, and the brief pause in eating gives the stomach time to recalibrate. This is why sushi chefs place gari on the plate, not for dipping the sushi in, but for eating alone between different types of fish. It's precision dining for your gut. Start eating small amounts of pickled ginger between courses or between different foods during any meal. Your stomach will handle transitions with a smoothness you didn't know was possible. 12. They practice hara breathing, a deep abdominal technique that physically massages the intestines. This isn't yoga breathing. This isn't Wim Hof. This is hara breathing, a Japanese technique rooted in martial arts and Zen practice that directly stimulates gut motility through mechanical pressure. In Japanese culture, the hara, or belly center, located just below the navel, is considered the seat of life energy. But forget the metaphysics for a moment. The physiology is what matters here. When you breathe deeply into the lower abdomen, expanding the belly fully on the inhale and drawing it in firmly on the exhale, you create rhythmic compression and release of the abdominal organs. The liver gets gently squeezed and released. The stomach shifts. The intestines receive a wave of pressure that mimics peristalsis. A 2023 study from Juntendo University showed that 10 minutes of diaphragmatic hara breathing after meals increased colonic motility by 34% and reduced transit time in patients with chronic functional constipation. The researchers noted that the mechanical massage effect on the ascending colon was comparable to manual abdominal massage performed by a clinician. Japanese martial artists, Zen monks, and even office workers practice hara breathing as part of their daily routine. It's often done seated in seiza position, kneeling with the spine straight, which naturally deepens abdominal breathing by preventing chest-only respiration. You can do this anywhere. Sit upright. Place your hands on your lower belly. Breathe in slowly for 4 counts, expanding the belly like a balloon. Breathe out for 6 counts, drawing the navel toward the spine. Do this for 5 minutes after any meal. Your intestines will begin moving in ways that no laxative can replicate because you're using the body's own mechanical system, the one most Westerners have completely stopped using since they started chest breathing full-time. 11. They season with shiso leaf, an herb that kills gut pathogens Western medicine barely knows about. If you've eaten sashimi in Japan, you've seen those large green or purple leaves arranged under the fish. That's shiso, Perilla frutescens, and it's not there for looks. It's there because it's one of the most potent natural antimicrobials found in any culinary herb. Shiso contains perellaldehyde, a volatile compound that suppresses the growth of pathogenic bacteria, including Staphylococcus aureus, Salmonella, and multiple strains of E. coli. This is exactly why it's paired with raw fish. It's an edible food safety system, but the gut benefits extend far beyond food safety. Rosmarinic acid, another major compound in shiso, is a powerful anti-inflammatory that modulates the gut immune response. Your intestinal lining contains more immune cells than the rest of your body combined. When that immune system is overactive, you get inflammation, food sensitivities, and a cascade of symptoms that doctors label as IBS or functional. A 2022 study from Kinki University found that Shiso extract reduced intestinal inflammation markers and improved gut barrier function in animal models of colitis. The researchers specifically highlighted rosmarinic acid's ability to downregulate NF-κB, a master switch of inflammation in the gut lining. Japanese families use shiso in salads, wraps, pickling, and as a garnish on virtually any protein. They also make shiso juice, a common summer drink made by steeping red shiso leaves with vinegar and honey. Grow it at home. It's as easy as basil. Add it to your meals daily, and you're giving your gut an antimicrobial shield that most Western herbs can't match. 10. They eat gobo, burdock root, specifically to feed the bacteria most guts are missing. This one's going to change how you think about prebiotics entirely. Because the best prebiotic fiber in the world isn't from a supplement company. It grows in the ground, and the Japanese have been eating it for centuries. It's called gobo, burdock root, and it's a staple you'll find in every Japanese grocery store. Gobo is loaded with inulin and fructooligosaccharides. But here's what makes it different from the commercial prebiotic powders that make most people bloated. The fiber in gobo is structurally complex. It's not isolated and concentrated. It's woven into a matrix of lignin, cellulose, and phenolic compounds that slow its fermentation in the colon. This matters enormously. When you take a scoop of inulin powder, it hits your large intestine all at once and ferments rapidly, causing gas, cramps, and sometimes diarrhea. Gobo releases its prebiotic components gradually, feeding beneficial bifidobacterium and lactobacillus populations steadily over hours, not minutes. A 2023 study from Hokkaido University found that participants who consumed 100 grams of cooked gobo daily for 3 weeks had significantly higher fecal bifidobacterium counts and increased butyrate production compared to those taking equivalent doses of isolated inulin supplements. The Japanese prepare gobo in dozens of ways. Kenpira gobo, where it's julienned and braised with soy sauce and sesame. In miso soup, sliced thin, or pickled as a crunchy condiment. They always scrub it rather than peel it, because the skin contains the highest concentration of chlorogenic acid, an antioxidant that protects the gut lining from oxidative damage. If prebiotic supplements have made you miserable, try the original source. Burdock root feeds your gut the way nature intended, slowly, gently, and completely. 9. They avoid cold drinks during meals. Religiously. This one sounds minor until you understand the thermodynamics of digestion. In Japan, serving ice-cold water with meals is considered borderline disrespectful to the body. Restaurants serve room temperature or warm beverages. Hot tea, warm barley tea. Sometimes just hot water. Never ice. Here's why. Your digestive enzymes are temperature-sensitive proteins. They function optimally at core body temperature, around 37 degrees Celsius. When you dump 500 milliliters of ice water into a stomach full of food, you temporarily drop the local temperature several degrees. Enzyme activity slows, fat solidifies, Gastric motility decreases. A study from the European Journal of Pharmaceutical and Medical Research showed that cold water consumption during meals delayed gastric emptying by 20 to 30 minutes compared to warm water. That might not sound like much, but multiply it across 3 meals a day, every day of your life, and you're looking at thousands of hours of impaired digestion cumulatively. Japanese Kampo medicine calls this high, or cold stagnation, and considers it one of the root causes of digestive weakness. Kampo doctors will actually palpate your abdomen, and if it feels cold to the touch, the first prescription is eliminating cold beverages entirely. The fix is simple, but requires habit change. Room temperature water, warm tea, hot broth. Your body won't miss the ice, but your gut will notice the difference within days. Food moves, bloating decreases, and that heavy post-meal slump starts to vanish. 8. They eat takwon, fermented daikon, as a daily digestive closer. At the end of many Japanese meals, especially in traditional settings, you'll see a few slices of bright yellow pickled radish on the plate. That's takwon, whole daikon radish that's been sun-dried, then fermented in rice bran for months. Takwon isn't just salty and crunchy. It's an enzymatic powerhouse. The fermentation process produces diastase and lipase, enzymes that break down residual starches and fats still sitting in your stomach from the meal you just ate. Think of takwon as dessert for your digestive system, not your taste buds. And because it's a lacto-fermented food, it delivers lactobacillus strains directly to the small intestine, reinforcing the probiotic population that antibiotic use, alcohol, and stress continuously deplete. Here's a detail that shows how deeply the Japanese understand their gut. The crunchy texture of takwon is intentional. Chewing something firm and fibrous at the end of a meal stimulates saliva production one final time, which triggers a downstream cascade. The stomach secretes a final wave of acid, the gallbladder contracts to push out remaining bile, and peristalsis gets one last push. The Japanese end meals with crunch and fermentation. We end meals with sugar and collapse on the couch. No wonder their guts outlast ours by decades. 7. They eat thinly sliced raw cabbage with fried foods, and the enzyme reason is brilliant. Go to any tonkatsu restaurant in Japan, the ones serving breaded and deep-fried pork cutlets, and your plate will arrive with a mountain of finely shredded raw cabbage on the side. Most Westerners push it aside. The Japanese eat every strand. Here's why. Raw cabbage is one of the richest food sources of S-methylmethionine, commonly called vitamin U, an amino acid derivative that protects and repairs the stomach's mucosal lining. It was literally named U for ulcer because of its anti-ulcer properties, discovered in the 1950s by Garnett Cheney at Stanford. But Japan has known this empirically for much longer. Pairing raw cabbage with fried foods isn't random. The fat and heat from fried dishes increase oxidative stress on the stomach lining. The vitamin U in raw cabbage neutralizes that damage in real time, right there in the same meal. A 2022 clinical review from the Japanese Journal of Gastroenterology confirmed that regular cabbage consumption was inversely correlated with gastric ulceration and showed protective effects on the mucosa comparable to low-dose proton pump inhibitors, but without the long-term side effects like nutrient malabsorption and increased fracture risk. And there's more. Raw cabbage contains indole-3-carbinol, a compound that supports the liver's detoxification of estrogen metabolites. Poor estrogen metabolism is linked to gut inflammation, water retention, and sluggish bile flow, all things that worsen digestion over time. Eat raw cabbage with heavy meals. Shred it fine, dress it lightly with rice vinegar, and consume it alongside anything rich. Your stomach lining will be armored while it works. 6. They practice Shin-kokyu, a 2-minute breathing reset that activates the gut-brain axis before meals. Before food touches their lips, many traditional Japanese practitioners perform Shin-kokyu, a brief, formal, deep breathing exercise that translates roughly to true breath, and it's different from the hara breathing I mentioned earlier. Shin-kokyu is specifically about extending the exhale. You breathe in for 3 seconds, pause, then exhale slowly for 7 to 10 seconds. That ratio is critical. When the exhale is 2 to 3 times longer than the inhale, the vagus nerve receives a direct activation signal that shifts the entire autonomic nervous system into parasympathetic dominance within 90 seconds. And here's where gut science gets fascinating. The enteric nervous system, your gut's own brain, contains over 500 million neurons. It communicates constantly with your central nervous system via the vagus nerve. When the vagus nerve is suppressed by stress, your gut literally goes dark, motility slows, secretion stops, blood flow to the intestines drops by up to 40%. 2 minutes of Shin-kokyu reverses this. Blood rushes to the gut, enzymes flow. Your stomach literally warms up. Japanese Kampo practitioners can feel the difference. A cold, tight abdomen before the breathing, a warm, soft one after. You don't need a meditation app for this. Before your next meal, take 5 slow breaths with a long exhale. Then eat. The food will hit a gut that's ready, willing, and fully online. That alone will transform your digestion more than any supplement you've ever tried. 5. They consume Amasake, a non-alcoholic fermented rice drink that rebuilds intestinal mucosa. Here's one the Western wellness world has completely missed. Amasake, literally sweet sake, is a thick, creamy, non-alcoholic drink made by fermenting cooked rice with koji mold, Aspergillus oryzae. It's been called the drinkable IV in Japan because of its dense nutritional profile. The koji fermentation breaks rice down into easily absorbable glucose, amino acids, and B vitamins. But the gut benefit comes from something less obvious: the oligosaccharides produced during fermentation. These short-chain sugars are potent selective prebiotics, meaning they specifically feed Bifidobacterium and Faecalibacterium prausnitzii, 2 of the most important bacterial species for gut barrier integrity. Faecalibacterium prausnitzii is the species that most people with IBS, IBD, and leaky gut are chronically low in. It's the single largest producer of butyrate in the human colon, and commercial probiotics almost never contain it because it's an obligate anaerobo that dies on contact with oxygen, making it almost impossible to put in a capsule. You can't supplement it, but you can feed it. And Amasake does exactly that. A 2023 study from Meiji University found that 4 weeks of daily Amasake consumption increased fecal Faecalibacterium levels by 35% and improved self-reported digestive comfort scores in participants with mild IBS. Japanese families drink Amasake warm in winter, chilled in summer, and give it to children recovering from illness. It's available at every convenience store, every temple festival, and most school events. It's essentially Japan's national gut repair drink, and the West has barely heard of it. Make it at home with rice and koji starter, or find it at any Japanese grocery store. Your intestinal lining will start rebuilding from the first cup. 4. They practice Hadaka de Neru, sleeping with minimal clothing, to improve gut circulation overnight. This is going to sound strange, but bear with me. Many Japanese people sleep with minimal clothing or in very loose cotton garments, a practice sometimes called Hadaka de Neru, or simply sleeping light, and the gut connection is more direct than you'd think. When you sleep in tight pajamas, compression garments, or even snug underwear, you restrict blood flow to the abdominal organs during the exact hours when your body is supposed to be doing its heaviest repair work. Your gut's migrating motor complex, the deep cleaning wave that sweeps residual food and bacteria out of the small intestine, only activates during fasting states, primarily during sleep. Constricted clothing impairs the abdominal muscle relaxation that allows this wave to function at full strength. A 2022 thermoregulation study from Nara Women's University found that participants who slept in loose or minimal clothing showed improved core to peripheral blood flow and lower morning cortisol, both of which correlate with better digestive function upon waking. Japanese futon culture supports this naturally. Sleeping on a firm futon on tatami with lightweight cotton covers keeps the body cool, unrestricted, and in a neutral spinal position that doesn't compress the abdomen the way sinking into a soft mattress does. Your gut does its most important work while you're unconscious. Don't strangle it with elastic waistbands. Sleep loose, sleep light. Wake up and notice that your morning elimination is suddenly more complete, more predictable, and more effortless than you remember. 3. They rotate their fermented foods seasonally, and this one habit prevents the gut stagnation most people don't know they have. Here's something that will reframe everything you think about probiotics. The Japanese don't eat the same fermented food every day all year. They rotate, and this seasonal cycling of fermented foods is one of the most sophisticated gut practices in any food culture on Earth. In spring, it's fresh nukazuke pickles and light miso. In summer, fermented plums and shiso juice. In fall, deeper ferments like sake lees and natto. In winter, heavy red miso and fermented fish. Why does rotation matter? Because your gut microbiome is not a static ecosystem. It's dynamic. When you eat the same probiotic food every day, you select for the same bacterial strains over and over. Eventually, those populations become dominant, crowding out minority species. You end up with a gut that's dense but not diverse. And diversity, not density, is the single strongest predictor of gut resilience. A 2023 microbiome study from Riken, Japan's largest research institute, found that individuals who consumed 3 or more different fermented foods weekly had significantly higher microbial alpha diversity than those who consumed only one type, even if the total quantity was the same. The Japanese food calendar naturally enforces this rotation. Different pickles, different misos, different fermented condiments become available at different times of year. Your gut never gets comfortable. It's constantly being challenged by new organisms, new metabolites, new fibers. If you've been eating the same yogurt every morning for 5 years, your gut has become a monoculture. Start rotating. Miso 1 week, sauerkraut the next, kimchi, kefir, tempeh. Keep your microbiome guessing. That's how Japan keeps theirs thriving. 2. They walk after every meal. Not exercise, not power walking. Slow, intentional strolling. This habit is so embedded in Japanese culture that it has its own proverb, Hayaku ho aruke, which means walk 100 steps after eating. And it's not about burning calories. It's about the biomechanics of digestion. When you walk at a slow pace after eating, your body does something remarkable. The gentle contraction and release of your abdominal muscles creates a rhythmic pressure on the stomach and intestines. Blood flow to the digestive organs increases, gastric emptying accelerates, and the oscillation of your torso stimulates peristalsis in a way that sitting or lying down simply cannot. A 2022 study from Osaka City University tracked post-meal walking in elderly participants and found that just 15 minutes of slow walking after lunch reduced blood glucose spikes by 22% and improved bowel movement regularity by 30% over a 4-week period. But here's the nuance the Japanese understand that most Westerners miss. Intensity matters. If you walk too fast, blood diverts from the digestive organs to the muscles, actually impairing digestion. The ideal pace is what the Japanese call sampo, a stroll, leisurely enough that you could hold a quiet conversation. Japanese neighborhoods are designed for this. Narrow streets, small shops, garden paths, temple grounds. After dinner, families walk slowly through their neighborhood. Not to the gym, not on a treadmill, just outside, moving, breathing, letting the body process what it just received. After your next meal, don't collapse on the sofa. Walk for 10 to 15 minutes. Slowly. No destination, just motion. Your gut will move food through faster. Your blood sugar will stabilize, and that post-meal bloat will start disappearing. 1. They treat the gut as the center of life, not the brain, not the heart, the belly. This is the one that changes everything, because every single habit on this list flows from a single philosophical root that Western medicine has spent centuries ignoring. The Japanese believe the gut is the seat of human health, emotion, and vitality. They call it hara, the belly, the center. And hara isn't just a body part, it's a concept that governs how they eat, breathe, think, and live. In Japanese language, gut expressions reveal this worldview. Hara ga tatsu means the belly stands up. Their way of saying you're angry. Hara wo kukuru means to fix the belly, meaning to make a firm decision. Hara guroi means black belly, describing a deceitful person. The gut isn't a digestive organ in Japanese thought. It's the core of your character. And modern science is finally agreeing. The enteric nervous system, your gut's neural network, produces over 90% of the body's serotonin, 50% of its dopamine, and communicates directly with the brain through the vagus nerve. Your mood, your sleep, your immune response, your skin, your energy, All of it traces back to what's happening in your gut. The Japanese have known this intuitively for millennia. That's why their entire culture, from how they sit, to how they breathe, to how they eat, to how they greet each other, is organized around protecting, honoring, and nourishing the belly. When you understand this, every other habit on this list stops being a random tip and starts being part of a coherent system. Chewing thoroughly, protecting the gut. Warm beverages, supporting the gut. Seasonal rotation, diversifying the gut. Hara, breathing, massaging the gut. Post-meal walking, moving the gut. It's all connected, and it all starts with one radical decision: to stop treating your gut as a food processing tube and start treating it as the command center of your entire body. Because the Japanese don't just heal their guts, they live from them. And once you start doing the same, your body won't just feel cleaner, it'll feel like it finally belongs to you. Japan didn't build these habits overnight. They built them over centuries. Quietly, consistently, without marketing budgets or supplement subscriptions. And the result is a population that digests better, lives longer, and suffers less than almost anywhere else on Earth. You don't need to move to Tokyo. You don't need to overhaul your life. Start with one habit, then 2, then 5. Let them compound. Because that's how Japan does it. Not with grand gestures, with daily discipline so small it's invisible. Your gut has been waiting for this. Give it what it's been asking for. Not another pill, not another protocol. Just the ancient, unglamorous, profoundly effective habits that have kept Japanese bellies clean, calm, and resilient for 1,000 years. Your body has never felt this clean, and you haven't even started yet.